Welcome to the Sweet Life Coaching Podcast, connecting real people with expert advice to achieve a healthier lifestyle and live a more fulfilling and abundant life. Here is your host, Coach Tavia.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sweet Life Coaching Podcast. Again, your coach, Tavia, is here. And you guys, I have an amazing special feature tonight. I'm really excited about. I'm just going to get right to it. I have two special guests today, Miss Tara Hare and Miss Deana Lansing. And these women are amazing. And I'm bringing them on today for one special reason. Well, multiple of reasons. One, I'm just going to say, I've known these women, my gosh, for like 40 some years. Yes, we're old. We go way back. But the reason why I brought these women on is because we all have a special connection, not only just from childhood, growing up together, but we all have the passion, and the passion is to help others and help others with their health and wellness. And a conversation came up between the three of us, ironically, in Facebook, like a couple months ago. And Deana had posted something, and Tara responded, and we were all talking about how the differences and the confusion sometimes between a counselor and or therapist and a health and a life coach. Because the health and life coach is kind of a relatively new field out there right now. And so people are like, well, do I do a counselor or do I go to a health and life coach? Well, today, you guys, we are going to kind of answer those questions for you, and we are going to clear the air of the confusion. And so I want to introduce one at a time here, these special ladies. First of all, I'm going to introduce to you Miss Tara Hare. And Tara, if you want to go ahead and say just a quick hello to everybody. How are you?
Hello, all you podcast listeners.
Thank you. Tara is down in Oregon. Well, you both are down in Oregon. I'm up here in Washington. But just a little background on Tara. Not only is she amazing, and I consider her a friend for many years, but she is a licensed professional counselor in the state of Oregon since 2010, correct? And she's working as a supervisor currently for a community mental health clinic, which, gosh, right now that's so needed. Tara is a graduate of Western Washington University, and she also, with a bachelor's of arts in Spanish, but she received her master's degree in marriage and family therapy counseling from George Fox University in 2006. She has actually been a mental health therapist, for 15 years. And the last 4, she's been in a supervisory capacity. She works with children, adolescents, their families in an inpatient setting, and with adolescents, young children's couples, families, and adults in an outpatient setting. Wow. Awesome. So Tara has an amazing qualifications and background. And I'll be honest, I didn't even know you knew all of this, but I'm just blown away. And so this is going to be a really good learning experience for me too. So anyways, welcome again. And I'm going to introduce Deana, and then we're going to get off on a really good Q&A here and let our listeners know what's going on here. Okay, so Miss Deana Lansing, I was just mentioning how Deana's dad was my dentist since I was 5 years old. And he just retired, didn't he, Deana, too? Yeah. And
a couple years ago.
Yeah. He did my whole family. He's amazing. Anyway, so I've known Deana for years. Again, both these women, we've gone to elementary school, middle school, high school together. Deana and I, actually, what's really funny about Deana and I, we actually reconnected through our Health Coach Institute schooling. Funny time. We both were going to the school, and I was like, I know Deana. And so we both graduated from the Health Coach Institute. I think she was a few months ahead of me. Nonetheless, but during that time, she actually was a former Division I, she was a police officer in Seattle Police. Was that correct? Seattle PD?
Kirkland PD.
Kirkland.
Outside of Kirkland. Yeah.
Okay.
Outside of Seattle.
Outside Seattle. Okay. Awesome. But Deana is phenomenal. Okay, you guys, Deana is a former Division I athlete. She was the amazing basketball player. I remember you in high school. You were just amazing, and all state, everything amazing. So she actually was, like I said, a police officer. And then she also turned her determination and true grit from being a police officer. And then she turned around, went to school, went to the Health Coaching Institute. And now she is a health coach. And she's actually currently studying to get her master's in holistic nutrition. That's amazing. Awesome. And with that mission, she is wanting to help high achievers learn how to use food and their minds to feel energized and focused so they can reach their goals with ease. So, and she is just taken over. And she also wants to, when she's not studying or nerding out, she says on self-development or nutrition podcasts and books, you can find her hanging out with her puppy dogs, Jet and Riley. Is that how you say Riley? Oh, and I have to shout out, we do have a Riley too. Tara has a dog. So we're all dog lovers here, guys. If you hear some dogs barking in the background or making some noise, we're sorry. It's just our dogs that we love. So get over it. We love dogs, right? So anyways, without further ado, welcome, Deana. Thank you for being here. Hello.
Yes. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. Yeah. So this is, like I said, guys, we're just going to talk this out, right? We want to let our listeners know when they are struggling with whatever they got going on, whether it's family, career, life, health, what have you. There's different avenues we all seek, right? And sometimes it's confusing. Like, who do we go? Who do we call? So, and it's not Ghostbusters. Ha ha ha. Funny little pun there. Sorry.
I think you definitely aged us in case we weren't already.
Right. So, all right. So I'm just going to start with Tara right here. Okay. Tara, first of all, tell me a little bit about what you do other than what I just described. So yeah, 15 years as a mental health therapist, right? So tell me a little about your passion. Tell me about who's your client that walks through the door. What are you seeing right now too?
Well,
a lot of questions.
We're seeing everyone walk through the door right now because, my goodness, if you haven't had a struggle this past year, I am pretty sure you might have been on the Mars rover at this point. So truly, anybody could really benefit from some extra support, ourselves included as professionals in the field. So really what I have done, and the passion that kind of started out for me, was wanting to help people more with who they are as humans and getting healthy in whatever that means to them. And really, so the approach I took, I chose a marriage and family therapy degree, which literally just means I took some more classes about working with couples and families. And I chose that because I sort of have this perspective that we're all essentially born into a relationship, whether it's a good or bad or whatever that looks like, and that we continue to have ongoing relationships with people, with our communities, with our dogs, with our careers, with food, all the things you can have relationships with throughout your life. And so truly what my goal is to help people get to a place of self-acceptance that hopefully goes further than that. I also know that sometimes I'm just part of the journey and I don't get to see the end of it. And as in people meeting all of their goals or finding their own ultimate health or wellness, really it becomes a longer journey. So I guess I really see myself as walking alongside people in their journey and being a part of that. And it is therapy. So we are doing talk therapy. I also have done some training in play therapy with kids and some art therapy. And there's a lot of different modalities and approaches to therapy. Yeah. So for the large portion of my career has been actually working with folks of various ages with psychosis and psychotic disorders. Really? So, and those are for people that don't know what psychosis is. It's hearing and seeing things other people don't see, maybe have different beliefs that aren't shared by many others. Could also be believing people are out to get you. There's a lot. I could do a whole thing on psychosis. I could tell you all sorts of things, but truly, and it's quite fascinating and interesting. And truly, it continues to be that connection with your resources and your natural resources. I don't really say family too much because I recognize that not everybody's biological family are the people that they go to for support. So a lot of times I'm going to use like their natural support system, whoever that is in their life.
Yeah.
Or maybe whatever, because, my dog's over to my side. So, support system there too.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah.
I'm trying to succinctly describe what I do, and I don't think I've ever had to really do that.
No, you're doing a great job. No, I'm already I'm taking down notes already, writing some things down. Like, no, this is great. Yeah. And already I'm already like, the differences are, totally. There's a lot of differences between a health and life coach and what you do. Absolutely. Yeah. Even the psychosis part of things, I don't even tap into that with my people.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Well, and I worked for specialized programs that is to the population, the population that we served. And that's really, I guess, in the community mental health clinics, we serve everyone. Predominantly we're helping people that are on Medicaid, which is usually the state health insurance, which actually has the best coverage for mental health services of any insurance company. So just going to share that straight up, that the Oregon Health Plan as a whole has by far the most coverage of resources for therapeutic interventions.
Okay.
So
shout out to that. That's good to know.
Yeah. Medicare at the federal level, not so much.
Okay.
So there's Medicaid and there's Medicare, and then there's private insurance, and private insurance does have to have what's called parity for physical health and mental health, which means they need to actually cover mental health services, but they really only cover something traditional like therapy and psychiatry. They don't cover, very rarely do they cover groups. They don't usually cover family therapy. They don't cover couples counseling. They don't cover peer support specialist or case management or things like that. So in the community mental health clinic, we offer a variety of resources. It's not just therapy. They're what I would say therapeutic interventions, and we do therapy too.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Very broad spectrum, if you will. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna pause you for a moment.
Absolutely.
Right now. Okay. So we'll no, I could listen for hours. So, okay. So now we're going to jump over, guys. To the listeners out there, we're going to jump over to Miss Deana. You guys already know what I do, so we're not even going to talk about what I do, but Deana and I are very similar in what we do. So I'm going to kind of let Deana explain a little bit more about like a health and wellness coach and what we do. And I'm already going to tell you there's differences, but both are very much special in what they do, and both I can say are highly needed. So, okay, Deana. So let's talk about what we do. You do, not me, you. This is your showtime here. So let's talk about what we go into Health Coach Institute. We go to schooling and talk about. Let's just discuss what individual comes to you and is saying, I got problems with my life. Start there. What would you say, and how do we go from there?
Yeah. Well, gosh, I think in coaching, a lot of times we specialize, we niche down to help a specific person or problem. Doesn't mean that we won't, talk to other people who feel like we could help them, but when we're marketing, so to speak, I guess, we're marketing to somebody who has a specific problem. So for me, in specifically, I'm a health coach. So I help people who learn how food and their minds can, getting to the root cause of their issue. Like they're telling me something like, they have, oh gosh, like we'll just say like their hair's falling out.
Okay.
Their hair is falling out. So we'll kind of dig down deep into like, what their diet is, what are they eating, what is going on in their life, like what is happening in their life, how do they, what nutrients are they getting? What movement are they having in their body or having in their life? And also just like, it's a mental, sorry, my words are not coming out clearly here, but just having, it's not just let's fix the food. It's all encompassing. And that's specifically why I'm going to holistic, getting my master's in holistic nutrition, because it's not just one thing that's going to solve the problem.
Right.
And I think so essentially is having that person come to me. We dive deep into what the root cause of why the problem they're having is happening in their life. And, one of the things that Tara and I had talked about earlier, and just like one of the differences is that self-disclosure. Like we, talk about the issues, and like we just mentioned earlier, or Tara just mentioned, what she was saying is in this profession and as a counselor, therapist, or a health coach, it's so important that we're getting that help ourselves. And I will say that I also have a coach. And if I, want to help people and I'm a coach, then I expect myself to get that help and be coached and go to therapy if that is what I'm needing in that moment as well. And I've gone to therapy for many years in my life. I'm not currently going. I currently have a coach, but not saying that I wouldn't do that. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So in the world of health coaching too, there's also a life coaching certification. Did you get the life coaching side of that too? You did go through that?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. And again, life coaching is not the same as, in my opinion, it's not the same as what Tara does in the therapist realm of it. I mean, I got the dual certification. You did too as well. And I know from that standpoint, I'm just going to interject here of what I know about that. And since I've gone through that, is it's more about learning about some background information, digging deep into old beliefs, old patterns, old stories that are coming up, and unveiling them and revealing them that, and then we go from there. However, I will say one thing that I have struggled with, and this is why I think Tara comes in and is so important right here, is because sometimes I don't always have the remedy. I don't always have the solution. I can uncover it as a life coach and let you find the answer. And that was a thing we talked about too, is letting them find the answer. And Tara, I have this question's for you. Is that something when you're, do you say patient or client, by the way? Patient?
We say client.
Client also. Okay. When your client comes in, is that something that you guys, that road you guys go down? I mean, you uncover it and then tell me about that process with you, because that's a little bit different with life coaching. And that's what we're here talking about,
Right. Well, it's interesting. There's this kind of joke that we say as therapists that we don't give advice. And yet at the same time, that's what everybody wants. Right. And so it can be really challenging because ultimately any of us could say something to a friend, a loved one, or in a professional setting where I say things to people. But if it's not something that's meaningful to the individual that's hearing it, and they're not ready to make it a move or a change or an adjustment in their life, then it really doesn't make sense. And so there's a lot about pacing of going at the client's speed. Going too fast, you're rushing people through things, or too slow, or it was boring and we all check out.
Yeah.
But you're really talking about what we would call like an intake assessment process. And in therapy, we all have to do an assessment, and we do have to give someone a diagnosis from the Diagnostic and Statistic, I can't say that, manual, the DSM. We just call it the DSM. There's a 5, it's the 5th version of it, the DSM 5.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like I said earlier, every single one of us living in the world today could most likely end up with at least at minimum what we would call an adjustment disorder, where, I don't know, we're adjusting to the world the way it is. And it's always changing, right? And so a diagnosis it unfortunately can be used to stigmatize and label people. If really how I see a diagnosis is to help us, give us an idea of what might be a helpful approach, what might be a helpful modality to use with this person, because there's some things work better for other diagnoses and things that are going on. And at the same time, where I'm really client-centered, and so I want to go at the client's pace and work on what they want to work on. But when we do an assessment, it is a comprehensive biopsychosocial assessment, getting their everything from this, that they're willing to give too, right? It doesn't need to be all like the deep parts of it. It's an overview of that, of, you know, what are some things you're experiencing? How come you came here today to therapy, right?
Yeah.
What are you hoping to get out of it? What, you know, have you been in therapy before? I like this question. Have you been in therapy before? Okay. If you did you like your therapist or did you not?
Yeah.
And if you didn't, what did they do that you didn't like? Or what did they do that you did like, right? So like, let's repeat the good stuff and not do any of that bad stuff. And so there's it's gaining a lot of information to get a foundation. You know, Deana, you mentioned of, you know, diving deep into the cause of the problem. We're diving deep into a big picture. And then, but people are telling us what things they want to work on. So that's really, you know, and sure, somebody could come in and have a variety of like many things happening in their life that are causing them stress and distress. But maybe they're only ready to work on one, and that's okay. So it's really, there's a lot of letting the client guide it, and we give direction too. I'm a pretty straightforward person, so people get really direct information from me, and it's also really supportive.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then we also have to create together what's called a treatment plan or a service plan or all sorts of plans. But it's ultimately, what's our goal for working together? I mean, it's just kind of like how you have goals. What's the goal, and how, and then how are we going to get there? Like, what's a step or two that will help get us towards that goal?
Right. So, into the means. Deana, do you want to piggyback on that?
Yes. So I think you said something earlier, Tavia, that like triggered a thought around coaching is, you know, we ask those powerful questions, and just like Tara does as well. I think that, you know, we are giving, I would say there's advice giving, I think, but that's a little bit of our mission. Maybe some new information that maybe our client hasn't, you know, heard of or thought of, or, you know, stuff like that. But I think the questions are what we go off of, and how we dig down deep into, you know, get to the root of that problem is, you know, asking the questions so they're coming up with their answers, and then they find the value, and they if we are telling them what to do, then the value isn't as strong. But if they say it, the value is a lot stronger. And so, yeah.
Agree. Yeah, no, definitely. One thing that Tara was saying too is, and this is funny. She said, you know, have you ever been in therapy before? You know, the question. And I always ask, have you ever been with a health and life coach? And I wanted to touch on this for a moment, because again, health and life coaching is relatively a new field or newer industry. It's come to the forefront. It really has. And doctors are looking for that middle person, if you will, to take their patients and guide them. For example, if someone comes in with diabetes and they don't know, okay, and they go home and say, see you in 6 months, but cut out your sugars. Great. Okay. That sounds great. But the mindset hasn't changed. The nutritional habits haven't changed, you know, so there's some differences there, obviously, in that approach, but, you know, and Tara, I don't know if you work with people that have, like chronic illnesses other than like, for example, diabetes, or is it more just strictly like mental aspects, not physical? Can you clarify that for me?
Sure. Well, we're really trying to do right now is have integrated health, so that that people have access and kind of, you know, a one-stop place to be able to get all of those needs and supports met. And so we really do a lot of coordination with other providers. We may not be the ones providing it because I'm not an expert in diabetes. We do sometimes have a living with chronic conditions group, and there are some other, you know, different ones, but we really try and partner with our community partners around other resources and supports, whether that's, you know, a group, because diabetes and high blood pressure are as we know, pretty big contributors to also reducing lifespan.
Absolutely.
And so also are actually severe and chronic mental health diagnoses. So if there are things that we can do to address all of those, that's really helpful. And I mentioned earlier about there being stigma and labels. When people are given those diagnoses, the hard part is there are some people in different professions who don't understand the diagnosis, and then they stigmatize the person and they don't listen to them. So they don't actually hear their real overall health life experience of what they need and what's really going on. And they can be really dismissive. And so that's what we try and really do in integrated care. And we consult with a couple of different primary care clinics regularly, and making sure that we have, make sure we have releases to have to share protected health information and that kind of a things with each other, but really try and coordinate. And on the behalf of the client, with the client's, agreement and interest and want to cover those things too.
Absolutely. That's fascinating to me. That's great that, again, I'm learning so much about more of this industry, and this has been phenomenal. This is great because, okay, let me ask you this, Tara. Have you heard about, like, prior to Deana and myself, obviously outside of us, have you been hearing the words health coach, life coach been thrown around here and there? Nutritionist?
Well, nutritionist, I would say, for a lot of us in the field, I'm honest, is that the life coach, health coach is especially when it first started, how many years ago, when it really came out, when you saw people using it was when they were using multi-level marketing, sales, and they wanted to promote their product and exercise stuff. And so people started calling themselves that. So unfortunately, you have a fair amount of undoing that needs to happen, because a lot of people think that's what you are. And so
no, we're not.
That's where you got your experience. And so I say that because I'm like, a lot of my coworkers in the field, you hear the idea of a health and life coach, and we kind of like the hair on the back of the neck stands up. Yeah, because that's what people are thinking of, rather than what are people training in the focus. And and Deana and I had talked, and I really love this. And if I went into private practice, I would have more of a focus too. I really like community mental health though, so I don't think I will do private practice in the future, but you never know. But you have kind of like that focus. Some of that because of your own experiences and because of the expertise you can bring to it and the relatability that you can bring. Which is huge. When any of us are going through a struggle, to have someone who's relatable is so important.
Oh gosh,
right? Like we have peer support specialists, and so those are people who have had some sort of experience in the mental health field of receiving services and things like that. And at the same time, many of us in the field could have peer in front of our name because we've had things in our own lives to go on. So it's quite fascinating. So I would say, yes, we have heard of health and life coaches. Unfortunately, what people heard of and think of are the multi-level marketing. Here's your supplement that costs way too much money and tastes like chalk. And here's an exercise video.
Okay. So, respectively, I know what you're saying. Yes. Okay. Right. Thanks for clarifying that though. Yeah. See,
so I think there's undoing that has to happen for you all, which is disappointing, but you have to think about that. There's undoing that we had to do because Freud thought everything was about sex and your parents. So so there was a lot of undoing that as therapists we've had to do over the decades as well. So it's just a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Deana, are you following?
Yes, totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, I won't go into that, but yes.
No. And that's what's interesting is, okay, I wanted to bring up, piggyback on what you're saying about the peer support and the stories. So another thing that I learned through going through the Health Coach Institute schooling, and there's other schools too. There's IIN, Integrative, Nutrition, Institute for Integrative Nutrition. There's a lot of other schools out there, and those are not multi-level marketing. I want to point that out. We are not multi-level marketers right here in this. None of us are. I have a bachelor's degree in communication with a SOS and psych background. Deana's got a background, so a lot of us have these amazing backgrounds, and then we just took it to the next level. But we also have real life stories. Like everybody is listening on my podcast know my story. I'm not going to go down my story, but Deana has a story. And Tara, what you're saying too, is that peer support, when people have gone through it, God, that's so important, and that's what makes you so much more powerful in your craft and what you do. And Deana, I know you went through a lot, and going through the police force, and you had some ups and downs and things like that. And it's made you to be the coach you are today,
Yeah, definitely. I think that is really what drew me to health coaching is, life. Truly, I was just surviving life. And I thought life was, working Monday through Friday, and, you lived for your weekends. And then the first thing that I shifted was my food, the food that I ate. And, there were some other things that were going on. But when I changed my food, there was a huge shift in just my mood and my physical body. And so I just fell in love with it. I was very intrigued. And so that my story became the reason why I wanted to do this and why I wanted to help people, because it is just as you were saying, doctors out there, they're seeing between 20 and 40 patients a day. They don't have time to follow up with their patients or to, they give them, something to do. And like you said, nobody's following up with them. So that's then where we can come in and help and, be that accountability and that support and provide them a program that is, conducive and to what the doctor had prescribed or whatever it is, but just to be that person that helps them get to those goals that they want to get to.
I did have one question also that just came to my mind, and this kind of goes back a little bit ago, diagnoses. So I want to mention too, with being in health and life coach, we don't diagnose. We do not. We can guide them and we can offer, I guess, red flags, tell them red flags, but technically we can't diagnose or treat a disease or anything. But Tara, is there actually, you can give clinical diagnoses and diagnosis codes, correct? So you have that ability to do so, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but before you go too far down this road, what Deana said, and Deana and I have talked, and so knowing how she got to where she is, I'm not sure if I shared much of how I got to where I was with her, but everyone who gets into the field of being a therapist in the work of the mental health field, we've all been through some sort of mental health treatment of some kind, or we wouldn't have found an interest in it, right?
Yeah.
And so the reality, I know I said we have peer support specialists, and I truly meant everybody I know that I work with, we could all have peer mental health therapists, peer something in front of our title, if you will, because of our stories and because of our stories and who we are. That's usually where our passion has come from, to help others. When we found something that either really wasn't working or really was working, and how we shifted. And so I think that just want to touch on that too, that it's such an important piece. And
Thank you. No, thank you for pointing that out. Absolutely. Deana, you.
Yeah. I was just going to say something. Just I said something earlier about it, but something that Tara and I, when we were talking, is that that just makes sense that you would go into a field that there was some passion behind it or connection, and but I don't think you in our container that we have with our clients is, I think that one of the differences is that we can share that information. And I don't know if you guys as therapists and counselors can't, or if it's just, that isn't, whenever I've seen a counselor, they don't share their personal stories as much as we share, our personal stories to create that connection.
Yeah, that's a super good point. You're right. And we have a code of ethics that, it keeps us from oversharing. I'm not saying that you are, but when we talk about it and when we do self-disclosure, which I actually think there are really important pieces of self-disclosure in the work that I do and that people do as therapists. And I think people are actually missing out if they don't do anything at all I, for instance, went to a therapist who wouldn't even shake my hand because she didn't believe in touch with a therapist. And I was like, I just want to shake your hand like a businessy, transaction, nice to meet you reading. Yeah. So that was a little weird. Didn't stay with that lady very long, but this is what you can do. You can try out and find the right fit for yourself. But truly it has become this, this place where sometimes, because in the self-disclosure that could happen in a therapy setting could be an abuse history or something like that, it can then feel like it turns into helping the therapist, helping the professional. So the client is now helping the professional. And that's where there's this really, so that's why we have like kind of structure around sharing and when to not share and to, make sure you get supervision and support around it. We talk about what's called transference and counter-transference, and those are therapy words I can talk about another day. But that idea of if I have abuse in my history and I'm working with someone who has abuse, if I share, oh yeah, I've had that too, a couple different things. It becomes, am I more like a friend? Am I more, am I saying, hear my story, look at how important my story is. And now the client doesn't feel like they're the most important person in the room at that time. So I also think that there's a big piece that sometimes therapists miss, and we miss in the training, talking about, there's this idea of talking about being a blank slate or a neutral place. And I was like, that's nonsense, because we all got into this field for a reason. And from who we are actually helps us be better therapists, be better at our job. So if I can't bring myself into the room with someone, then that's not going to work. The deal is I need to be aware of who I'm bringing into the room and how that could and does play a part in the therapeutic relationship and the growth, or become a barrier potentially to the client I'm working with.
Right. No, that's amazing. I'm engulfed in you. I'm just like, I get Tara. I'm just like, I want to learn more. I'm like, I want to just hang out with you. Cause you said so many great points there, and just overall, going back to oversharing, right? I would say my biggest downfall is I care too much. I'll be honest. I care too much. And sometimes I want to just be like, can I just hug you? That's my biggest, I'm just a big love. And I want to hug them all and fix everybody. And let's talk about the hard, this stuff, the hard part of all of our jobs is that drawing that boundaries, right? And tough love and tough skin and being that mentor and that person they look up to and say, thank you, you changed my life, and not being their friend, because I want to be everybody's friend. And ultimately I do have some clients that I have become good friends with, and that's fine later on. That's fine, but there's some tough things, there's a tough, this job isn't easy. I'm going to say that, for me anyways, I love it. It's my passion. It's my purpose. I say, this is my mess became my message. And it's what I love about all three of us. I'm just going to point this out is, we've all three of us have a story. We do. We have a story, and look at how we've all created this. Our mess became all of our messages, and we're all doing it differently, but in the same realm. Mind, body, and soul, we're changing the world. We're changing the lives of people. And that's the most important thing we can do right now, right? Right.
Absolutely. I second that, Tavia, for sure. Gosh, there's so much pain and hurt, especially, right now. And not even right now. Like it just is. It is. And people don't, what Tavia said, or Tara said something earlier about relationships, and that relationship with food is the same thing as relationships with people. Right. And so people don't understand that. I will say probably all of my clients, when I ask them if they understand their relationship with food, they don't know what I'm talking about. Right. And so it is that, we're hurting so much that we reach for those things to make us feel better. And that's our subconscious, is ruling. And most of us humans don't understand that. They just hear it and they think that's what they want. That's what they need. And they'll just reach for it without thinking. And so, yes, I want to, my passion is to help people as well. And, really help them understand why they are in pain and hurting, and digging down deep into their belief system, and what they've believed for all their lives is, may not be the truth. And so
their story that
go
ahead,
Tara. It just takes a lot of energy to unlearn those patterns, right? And and to even find them first, and then to unlearn them. And it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of willingness, and it can be super painful. So there are times when I'm like, we don't dig deep. We're like, I can't handle that. Let's just deal with right now. And the fact that, you have three kids at home and you're working full time because of the pandemic, right? Like those types of things. But it's really, I think it's important to remember. The other thing I would be remiss to say that, to not say this. I also work with folks that in addiction recovery, and because it's so important. There's so much substance abuse and addictions and problems that are out there for folks that have really gotten in the way, and it's gotten a lot worse, unfortunately, with the pandemic. But just talking about the relationship with the substance or with whatever it is there's that addiction with, and it's there's some really fascinating work out there in the recovery world, and there's some pretty amazing things happening in substance use recovery. And so I don't have a ton of knowledge in that area, so it's not my expertise. However, I honor that as being so real and so important and such a big piece for people. And to not bring shame to. So I just want to make sure I recognize that. And then I realize,
heck yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And I don't touch that with a 10-foot pole. No, that's not my thing right there. You go get the professional help if you have their substance abuse. No. I don't know. Life coach. Now there are some life coaches, I will say, that I do personally know that have suffered from addiction, and they have turned that again, their message into their message, and they have gone about and helped others, like after they've gotten the professional help, from a therapist, continue their life journey. So just again, another little tweak there, so many similarities, but yet so many differences. Bottom line, guys, I'm going to kind of, close this up here, wrap it up. Yeah. Close it up, wrap it up here. But this has been amazing because I've learned so much more about Tara and what she does, and what Deana and I do. It's very complementary, but again, there's so many differences. It's both needed, in my opinion, in different ways. And depending, if you're a listener out there right now, you're like, well, I don't know who I should go to. I think you need to talk it out. Reach professional. I always say, talk to a doctor first. I am not a medical doctor. Deana's not a medical doctor. Always talk to your doctor first and get the advice of a medical doctor for any kind of treatment that you are seeking, and go from there, and then do your own diligence. But I just want to end on this and just ask each and one of you, any final words that you just want to say to the listeners out there about that you feel that's super important that about what you do, or if there's a concern. Yeah. Tara, go ahead.
Wow. One nugget of wisdom. Okay.
Anything.
I'm going to skip to what I actually, just something else for all of us, whomever you are caring for, whether that's yourself and your plant, or that's yourself and children, family, loved ones, people that, if you work in a professional field where you're caring for others, is please, right now in particular, take care of yourselves. And self-care as a word, man, I could do a whole ginormous conversation on that. But I go with the self-care of giving yourself time, space, a break, is the giving yourself grace and kindness and compassion. That the self-care might be, there's a fantastic artist on Instagram, Hannah Daisy, make daisy chains. Totally. She doesn't know me. She's out of the UK, and she does this topic and has this artwork on boring self-care, and it's some of the best stuff I've seen. It's just fantastic. It's like everything from, you put away your laundry, you cut your toenails, you clean your sheets. So that's the biggest thing I want to just share with all of us is to do the little things, to not make it a giant to-do list, to make it that doesn't cost tons of money. Make it just a regular to-be list of like, hey, I actually cut my toenails so that I don't stab myself at night, right? Like whatever the case may be. So that's what I'm going to end on.
I love it. And I'm big on self-care too. So this is fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. Deana, any final words from you?
Yeah, no, I second that, Tara. Thank you. Self-care is so important. We can't, help other people unless we're going to help ourselves first. But I just want to end, Tavia, thank you so much for having us. If anybody's out there who is, just having some struggles with their health and food and want to learn how they can use food in their mind to accomplish those goals that they want to, and they just feel like they're stuck in, unhealthy habits, then I am here. We can just have a conversation and, go from there. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. Yes. Well, thank you both for being on. This has been amazing. Gosh, we might have to continue a conversation and bring up another topic between the three of us, because this is just like an amazing trio, if you will, of the three of us. And I think there's so much power behind what all of us do. So anyways, I want to thank you both for coming on. Thank you for your time. I want to thank the listeners out there. If you have questions, there's going to be links below how you can find Miss Tara and Miss Deana. And so there'll be links below after this, at the below of this podcast, and you can contact them with any more questions, or if you want their services, they are available for you. So again, ladies, thank you so much. And everybody
Tavia.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Tavia.
you. You're welcome. And have an amazing day, everyone. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Sweet Life Coaching Podcast. To learn more about the topics mentioned on today's show, please visit sweetcoachtavia.com.